song you just heard is taken from Respiration Has Ceased, RHC, and they do some of the music for our website. They're a great band. Make sure you check them out on MySpace. Buy the CD if you haven't already. They're a great band, and they're starting to take off. They're going to be a big hit, so check them out. Anyways, tonight's show is going to be about our recent investigation, which was up in the Lake Wales area. We're also going to talk about a few paranormal events that occurred, investigations, things of that sort. A lot of random things going to be talked about tonight. Recently, our show has seemed to grow in popularity. We're available on YouTube, so if you have an iPhone, you can listen to our radio show. I'd like to also give a shout out to Mike Digital of digitalphotography.com. It's not with the G, but that's with the J. He runs an urban exploring group. It's pretty professional. It's pretty well done. So make sure you do check them out. Also, I'd like to say, a lot of you sometimes, you browse the web and you read all these hate sites, and honestly, it doesn't bother me. The only thing that bothers me about such hate sites is that when they involve my children, or they involve the death of my friend, or they speak falsely about me, and those kind of things should have never happened. But I'd like to also take the time to give a shout out to all them hate groups. Because of you guys, you've made this radio show possible. Our hits are growing every week. We're getting a lot of people listening in, and even the people that hate us have grown to actually listen. And that's all I really want. I want people to listen to our radio show. I want people to get involved in what we do here. Some people could say, hey, the Paranormal Ghost Society, they're nothing but a bunch of people looking for orbs. It's not true. We run an extreme adventure type of organization. We don't just do ghost investigations. We don't just do cemeteries. We do ghost towns. We do catacombs. We do abandoned buildings. Some of that involves trespassing. Some of that involves exploring and safety and photography. Many of the multiple things that go into it. If you have not done so, if you notice that this has been the year of horror movies, I just rented Pumpkinhead 3. I got Pumpkinhead 4 coming out, and people laugh because it's just this giant demon with a giant head that goes around killing people. But wouldn't you wish all paranormal investigations were like that? You're in some small town in the woods being chased by some beast that's gonna kill you. It's like, why do I miss out on the good stuff? Then I look back and I say, hey, wait a second. There actually is a lot of good things going on our investigations. And it's got to make you wonder about some of the investigators and people you meet down here in Florida. I mean, let's face it. People up in the Northeast, they're the true explorers and investigators. But then you come down south and it's a whole different breed. Everybody's afraid to go up into the woods. Down here in Florida, all the animals are miniaturized. The black deer only stand like 2 feet off the ground, and the deer, you got these deer that are like 16 inches high, and even most alligators are quite small, depending on where you go. And generally humans is what rules the state. It's not a whole lot of things that are going to eat you for supper down here in the Sunshine State. But it seems like, all these guys that join our team, they call themselves rednecks, and, they act all tough with their shotguns and drinking their beer with their buddies. But then when it comes down to hiking in the woods, forget it. I mean, you can't drag anybody deep in the woods without them, pissing and moaning and complaining. And, they're afraid of some little black bear that's probably going to show its ass and run the other way. And, it's got to make you wonder about people, They act all tough down here in the Sunshine State, and everybody's afraid to explore. Everybody's afraid to go off into the woods. It's not even just the point of paranormal investigations. It's going out and it's adventuring. It's looking around and making new discoveries. And you really can't get people to hike. You can't get them to go in the woods. Everybody wants to just go in a cemetery and they want to stay in one place. But when it's, when it comes to going in an abandoned place, forget it. and people will be making up excuses. Well, what if I get lost, etc., etc. Well, you know, in the state of Florida, everything's a tract of land, so you just follow the fence, and there you go. You come out on the road. There's not a lot of terrain in Florida. There's not a lot of, I mean, it's a very jungle-like fauna, but, in my time, I've maybe gotten lost 2-3 hours. I've always found my way out, and you're not dealing with the Alaskan wilderness here. You're not going to have a grizzly eat you. You're not going to be attacked by a 500-pound mountain lion. I expect to get attacked when I'm out west, and you better believe I'll be ready for it. But it's got to make you wonder about these Floridians down here. I mean, a lot of them just, they won't go in the woods, they won't hike, and sadly, we're probably going to lose a lot of investigators. We had one investigator recently I had to let go tonight because, she says, I'm an investigator, so, that gives me the right to tell your members what to do. I mean, in her own terms. And, and she just, I don't know, she went bonkers. Sometimes people go out and they do this, and then they come back home and they're a whole different person. I mean, they're no longer civil, they get cocky. They think because they go out once to 2 to 3 times, even 20, 30 times, they think that they're a good paranormal explorer, and you're not. This is something that takes years to grow into. You have to learn the wilderness, you have to learn the woods, you have to learn safety, and, some people get real cocky about this. And you just can't be that way when you're out there investigating the paranormal. I mean, there's a lot to learn, there's a lot to see, and you're not going to always see ghosts, you're not going to always see UFOs. And, unfortunately we had this member tonight say, hey, I'll go look for other groups, but the truth is, a lot of paranormal groups require a degree. They require equipment. They ask you to take a test. I'm not like that. I'll allow anybody to join my group. We have an investigator right now. She's 61 years old, but she hiked the 6 miles, and she did not do any whining or complaining, really. She did what she was supposed to do. She helped investigate. And, anybody who shows her support, I'm very grateful. But, some people, they join and, they have their own motives. They think they're going to start running the organization, telling me what to do. And, and it's not Burger King have it your way. We have a system. It works. It keeps people alive. It keeps them safe. I'm not going to sit here and wear a tux on my investigations. Might as well make another movie, The Tuxedo 2 or something, and put me in the tux. And, it can have all these little gadgets and make me the #1 paranormal investigator or something. It doesn't work like that. We're not about professionalism. We're not going to impress people with our equipment and dressing fancy or anything like that. We go out, we get the job done. We come back, we share a few laughs on our board, we allow people to be themselves. If you want to join our board that has no censorship, if you get approved, that's what the BB is for. But there's no sin in joking around, and I see a lot of people that don't know how to lighten up down here. Everybody takes things seriously, it's whether it's religion or the paranormal or exploring or whatever the case is. Everybody's wound so tight, tighter than a virgin, I'm telling you. And it's just getting ridiculous, and that's why I'm moving, because I just can't deal with the hicks anymore. I mean, I don't know about you, but if you read the paper recently, a group of cops had ganged up on a student, tasering the hell out of him. I mean, this is just ridiculous. I mean, cops tasering students, children, and, they're pulling over guys like me on abandoned roads, and they're beating on us, and, I mean, it's just pathetic. I mean, these cops, they're just nothing but a bunch of rednecks with guns. And, I could sit here and I could tell you some corrupt stories. Believe me, I could. But, it's the same thing with my investigators. They come along for the investigation. Halfway through, they're like, I'm leaving. I'm going to McDonald's. I'm hungry. It's halfway through the investigation. My feet hurt. I'm going back to the hotel to get a foot rub. It's like, what the hell? I don't see myself ever abandoning my investigators. But it's pretty sad that you do 1-2 investigations, or you visit 1-2 places, and next you know, the person's waving goodbye. They're like, hey, thanks for the lovely night. I'm on my way to get some double cheeseburgers. You know, it's like, oh, wait a second here. I'm hungry too, you know. My feet hurt too. My back hurts too. But on with the investigation. And, you know, what a lot of investigators don't think is, you know, we could be exploring. You could take off and quit for the night. And the next place I go, I could be attacked by somebody. And because you weren't there, you just cost our team, the entire team, their lives. You know, a lot of people don't see it that way. And I had one investigator, and you know, after that, it kind of sours the moment. They're like, you know, we wear our outfits to investigate, not to hike in the woods. But sadly, you know, sometimes you gotta hike to these abandoned places. You gotta hike to these ghost towns, and sometimes you gotta hike a couple miles. That's why a lot of other paranormal groups don't get to them, because they're not willing to walk the extra mile. So I pretty much got yelled at because someone wore a certain dress attire. And that's not my problem. You know, maybe I should be called Lord Rick, Paranormal Babysitting Service. Who knows? But the point is, I'm not there to babysit my investigators. And it just seems like lately, all I get are people who walk out on an investigation, they quit, they think it's like ghost hunters on Sci-Fi. Come on, think about it. You know, has Sci-Fi Channel ever done anything real? I mean, you know, all these people are donating to Ghost Hunters television show, and, you know, that's all everybody does is write me talking about Ghost Hunters, but let's face it, it's a TV show. It's about ratings. It's not the real thing. The real thing that's out there is, you know, someone like us going and hiking 6 miles into some dark ghost town. We don't have a makeup crew. We don't get a ride out there. We're doing this on foot. It's as real as it's going to get. And that's what makes the Paranormal and Ghost Society a very genuine organization. Whether we get orbs or ghost photos, we put them out there. Whether you choose to believe is up to you. Doesn't necessarily mean I believe in what I'm putting out there. Because some things you have to take with a little bit of skepticism. On the other hand, yes, I have seen ghosts. Yes, I have seen UFOs. Yes, I have tracked Bigfoot down. I think I've came close to a lot of paranormal events. Things that most paranormal organizations sit down and they dream about. And I've come close with it, or I've seen it. So yes, the paranormal is very real. We can't explain it. That's why it's called paranormal. But nonetheless, what we do here is very serious, with a little touch of laughter and a little bit of touch of fun, you know, and friendship and all those extra things. But when it comes to our investigations, we do take them very seriously. And if we gotta hike all night long just to find a few answers, we'll do it. And that's the way it works. I think what it is, I think I just need to up the rules and protocols a little bit. And on the application, ask questions like, do you live in a trailer? Have you been on Jerry Springer? Are you on any medication? Has there been any inbreeding in your genealogy DNA line? And I need to start going into these type of questions and pre-screening my investigators and input on the application. Are you scared of raccoons in the woods? Are you missing any teeth? And if so, how many? And maybe I'll even put a little disclaimer at the end of it. Are you a native of Florida? Yes or no? Yes, you're not allowed on the team. No? Welcome aboard. Oh, and then I got a real good one for you. How about these people that come on paranormal investigations and they're a couple? And they think that, you know, they're going to the movies. They think that it's a date, you know. And they sit there and, you know, they go around the cemeteries holding hands, kissing, making out. Okay, maybe they don't always do that. But you ever notice, like, they can never separate? If they do separate, they're always worried about each other. Instantly, you know, over a simple noise or whatever the case is. It's like, hell, we got a group here and we got a group there. Leave Lord Rick in the woods alone just to chase a little bit of beaver. You know, come on. I mean, we really don't need couples doing investigations for the Paranormal Ghost Society. Because, you know, even though we run a dating service, that's a little bit separate from the whole investigation routine. You know, so, you know, it's just like, you know, over the years of doing this, you kind of know what works and what don't work. You know, I have no regrets about a lot of my adventures. You know, I enjoy hiking under the moon. I enjoy being, you know, in a haunted house that's historical and looking out the window and the moon's shining in. Or, you know, you're in a cemetery finishing up and the sun's just about to come up. I enjoy all these things. And it's a passion. And I wish that a lot of people could share the same passions that I share. Oh, and if you're wondering why my voice changed there, I'm actually eating an Italian dinner while doing the radio show. So you see, Lord Rick here, he multitasks. He's talented in every aspect. I can eat, do a radio show, and at the same time run my paranormal forums. It doesn't get any better than this, guys. Actually, it does get a little bit better. I would like my members and my fans to listen to a little bit about something. Okay, we've been around, you know, 5-6 years, alright. And as you know, there's a few other radio show sites. For example, Coast to Coast. We've wrote them over and over and over. I've had fans write them and say, hey, when are you going to interview Lord Rick? When are you going to interview the Paranormal and Ghost Society? Because let's face it, on Coast to Coast, they put up a lot of pictures that are fake. You know, it's fine to put up the pictures and let the members decide, is it real, is it not real? That's all good. But, you know, some things they put up, it's like, man, I mean, you look at that and you think to yourself, how fake. It doesn't even take an expert to realize that the photo is just not real or it's something senseless or silly. But anyways, you know, for some reason, they must have something really against me. And, you know, I always laugh about this because it's like, you know, it's like 6 years. I've had my publicists, and I've had members and moderators, and even myself write them, begging for an interview. You know, it's strange because they've just about interviewed every paranormal organization in this country but us. And why? I mean, really, who are they to judge? Because I toke up a few? Who doesn't? Cheech and Chong, Willie Nelson, they toke up a few, but they're in the money, or we're in the money. And, you know, they still get on the air for an interview here and there. So I kind of laugh at that because it's like, yeah, it doesn't matter, you know, what type of paranormal group you put up. The fact is that every paranormal group in this country deserves an interview with Coast to Coast. But the Paranormal Ghost Society, we don't get one. We don't even get a response when we write them. It's like they got it out for me. And, you know, it's quite funny, but that's alright. Because, see, now we run the AngelOfThyNight radio show. And although we may not be as big as their radio show, it is nice to know that people who are listening in are committed members, committed fans, and, you know, I'd rather have 50 committed fans than 50 million who really didn't care about us, or 50 million people who just did not take it seriously. And, you know, sometimes a nice, tight, small, knit group is the best way to go. So, yeah, I thought that was pretty funny about Coast to Coast, because we did actually write them recently. They never responded. And over and over and over, we've asked for a radio interview. And, you know, they keep having the same guest over and over and over, as if my UFO sighting is not good enough for them. But Joe Schmo's UFO sighting, nobody knows who he is, you know, they put that up in an instant. So I thought that, you know, I think that's kind of funny. But anyways, I'd like to talk about our investigations. We went up to Lake Wales. Lake Wales is an old town. You know, it's basically was pioneered around 1852, and, you know, it's very different because it's extremely hilly for one. You can see the town from Bach Tower below, and actually it sits in a valley. There's no town like it in Florida. And I always enjoy going here, but it's kind of a far journey for me. And you know, sometimes when you don't got a good vehicle or you can't afford the gas, you just can't afford to go to these places all the time. So when you do go to them, you just gotta savor the moment. And that's exactly what we did. We met at McDonald's again in Lake Wales, the team and everybody. You know, we get investigators from all over the state. I allow anybody to come along. But, you know, it's just when people don't respect the rules and they play founder, yeah, that's when it's time to say see ya, don't want to be ya. And so we met at the McDonald's. We took on off to this ghost town, Sumuka, or Sumika, or however you want to pronounce it. It was one of the only lumber towns in Polk County. The rest of them were all phosphate mining towns. Polk County is one of the counties that is heavily industrial in Florida. It's also one of the least populated counties. A lot of woods, a lot of hills, a lot of railroading, a lot of abandoned factories and things. And, you know, we've been up there. We did the ghost town of Brewster one time, but this time we went to Sumika, and, you know, a ranger came on out to see what we're doing. Guarantee a local called it in because, you know, the locals here, they got nothing better to do in Florida. Most of them sit by their windows. As soon as they see a car light, they call the local sheriff, or they come outside with their shotguns. And, you know, these people were up to no good. You know, whether they're inbreeding at 2 in the morning, who knows? I don't know what's going on. I don't think I want to know, even as a paranormal investigator. You pull down the wrong road, they try to block you in and everything else. But the ranger came, we hid. I didn't want to scare the ranger too much, you know, just have a couple guys come on out, or a couple females, talk to him, and he gave us permission to go back into the ghost town, gave us directions. It was a good couple-mile hike. You could see where there was an old railroad bed. We didn't see the railroad ties like they're supposed to be, but it was one of these places that you gotta, you know, go really deep in, and you could see where they used to lumber, because you had logging roads, and the roads went into areas where there was tree stumps and just empty grassy fields. It's like you had sections of forest missing. And of course the town died out when they had no more lumber to work with. And of course scrubs had overtaken the area, so there's a lot of scrubs, a lot of wetlands, because there's no trees growing to absorb the water. We ended up hiking a couple miles in, and I mean, you should see some of the spiders. I mean, some of the spiders are just phenomenal in Florida. They get really large, they can bite, and it hurts. Knock on wood, I haven't been bitten by a spider, but I had actually on this investigation 2 of them land on my face. Actually, I ran into them because the webs are really hard to see when you're moving along a trail. And sometimes in a matter of 10, 20 feet, you come across 3, 4 giant webs. These webs are 6 to 10 feet large. You get a banana spider sitting in the middle that's sometimes 2, 3 inches. You know, this is like arachnophobia. These things jump out at you, they get stuck on your glasses, and they start, you see their claws, and they're not really claws, but, you know, their jaws just retracting in your face. You know what they're thinking. They want to poison you. If these things were a little bit larger, we would be at the bottom of the food chain. So we hiked through lots of spider webs, came out on a dirt road of some kind, and off this dirt road in the middle of nowhere was little paths going into the woods where there was open sections in the forest. Like you could see where there was some bricks and things where there used to be housing, 4 houses, and you know, this is a community of 600 people. So there was over 100 structures in the town, and you know, what was left is a few bricks, a few foundations, a sawmill, a few other structures. We did not see anything. My investigators were getting very tired. I did a little bit of hiking by myself a few times to try to see what I could discover. And of course, after that, you know, we had 2-way radio split up the group. One investigator's like, we gotta skedaddle, we gotta go, it's getting late. You know, I'm not one to be pressed for time. I'll hike and hike and hike until I find what I'm looking for. That's just how it goes. You know, if I gotta check out the rest of the places during the morning when the sun's up, I'll do it. Because I can get ghost pictures during the day too. I'm not just a night investigator, but I do a lot of our investigations at night. So anyways, I sent the group the other way and I started hiking down the road. And yeah, I gave up after a little while because on both sides you could tell that the area had been heavily lumbered, or whatever you want to call it. There was no trees, but up ahead at the end of the road where it looked like it dead-ended was a patch of thick woods. And I bet you just a few hundred feet more or a few hundred yards more, we probably would have reached the heart of the ghost town. I mean, but we did a good job. I mean, we did a few miles of hiking, probably around 3 miles, I'd say, within the tract of land, and then we hiked about 3 miles out. So we did about 6 miles of hiking, maybe 7 miles. And, you know, it's a lot of hiking. And, you know, during our hike, we may have not discovered a lot of ghosts, but there was a UFO sighting. The area has been very heavy in UFO sightings the last few months. Actually, some of the top UFO sightings taking place recently have been in this area in all of the world. A lot of UFOs, and it's a very secluded area. There's nothing but woods, there's nothing but prairies for miles upon miles. There's no civilization. A lot of creeks, a lot of lakes. That area actually has 2 to 3 ghost towns, but Sumika was the most intact one. All we found was a couple bricks. Seemed like my investigators were disappointed and wanted to give up because they didn't find no structures. It's not always structures that matter. You know, the point is that you did the hike, you explored the best you could. And if you quit early or you gave up, it's the moment where you could have spent another 10 minutes and you may have found the sawmill. So, you know, I felt like, you know, half of my investigators were really giving up. And I started a hike alone. I felt some cold spots, I heard some movement. And I really wish I would have hiked a little further ahead, but, you know, it's after a few miles of hiking in the dark, and you know, I was pretty content because I had seen a UFO, and that to me is good enough. For some it's not, but what I seen was actually a white ball of light hovering above the trees and in a small patch of woods. It wasn't my spotlight. Spotlights put out yellow light, and you know, they move around. You know, the farther the spotlight goes, the bigger it spreads out, but this was something blinking. This was something that was controlling its flight up and down. And it was moving around, and it seemed to have spooked my team, and I was playing with it. I was signaling it, you know, because goddamn, I'd love to be abducted. You want to take me to Mars or the moon, be my guest, because I'll tell you what, I'm banned from NASA. NASA's not going to take me to the moon. But if I get abducted, I'm going to the moon. And it's a free ride. And at the same time I'm in space, I'm going to make out with aliens. I'm going to have hybrids making out with me. I want some alien sex. I don't care what anybody thinks, because I'll tell you, it's got to be out of this world. And, you know, who knows, maybe I'll introduce a little bit of herb and reefer to the aliens, smoke the peace pipe, and, you know, who knows, maybe they'll give me a transmitter or something I can carry around on my investigations. That way, if I ever get stranded, my lousy car breaks down, hell, I just push the transmitter and they come pick me up. It's like universal AAA. But anyways, the area seemed pretty large. We didn't get to see it all. And we found other trails that probably went a mile or two the other direction with little, you know, a few hundred feet cutoffs. They were probably driveways to these houses and businesses of the ghost town at one time. I thought it was rather interesting. A lot of history there. You know, people worked, people died, people lived here. The news did a recent story on it, and I thought it was a good place to investigate. I really did. And I don't know how my investigators felt. It seemed like a lot of them didn't like the hiking and the walking and the spiders and the whole thing, but, you know, I'll tell you what, You set up a video camera out there, you may not get ghosts, you may get Bigfoot, you may get UFOs. It's the element of surprise. So I got to see a UFO. Yeah, I don't know what it was. It was no plane. It was something was on that track with us, and it was moving around, and it was out there. Maybe I had a bunch of aliens moving around in the prairie watching me. I don't know. As long as they don't anal probe me, I'll be alright. But anyways, we moved on to our next investigation. By then, the team had separated, and a couple investigators ended up leaving. And of course, that does hurt us in a way because we count on others to use equipment and such. That's a problem when the investigators go and they just do what they want, instead of seeing it out. The next place we went is Spook Hill. It's a pretty famous place. Sometimes people drive 100 miles to come see it. You put your car in neutral, and it's supposed to roll back. And it's an optical illusion because when you get up to it, it's a pretty giant hill, and you actually put your car on the white line. But it's as the hill starts to begin. And then if you stand there on the sidewalk or on the side of the road, you can see that there's a slight incline in the road. So of course your vehicle is going to roll back. There's no magnetism, there's nothing ghostly, nothing mystical about it. But that's why I'm putting it on the site, so people can learn a little bit about this phenomenon. But anyways, we went to Spook Hill. I really wasn't interested in the car rolling backwards or anything like that. I was more interested in the history to the area. And of course they built houses in the school there, so it was all built on top of everything, but there's a ridge, but supposedly there's an Indian chief buried in the ridge, and nearby was a Native American village, and then the Army used to use Spook Hill. They had a trail up there for supplies, and it was like an old Army trail from the Civil War or whatever. So, Spook Hill, a lot of people report strange things, ghosts, legends, mystery, and such. Basically I was there to investigate the area. I didn't spend a lot of time, but we did walk around a little bit. I never laughed so hard in my life just seeing one of my investigators. She's got the car on the white line, the truck's rolling back, and she's thinking, I came all the way out here for this? It's like, no, we're not just there to experience the area or experiment with it, but we're also there to explore it. So we went to Spook Hill, we conquered that. It just had a recent newspaper article on it, and a lot of people think it's a waste of time, but I thought it was pretty interesting. You see this ghost that looks like Casper as, I don't know what you want to call it, the mascot of the elementary school, and you got a little plaque on up by the road with the picture of the ghost on it. So Spook Hill fits our organization well. There's nothing really scary about it, but there is a tree that has an axe mark. It's extremely old, and it was there when the chief was roaming this area, and it was there when the Army crossed paths down the trail and into Spook Hill. So, the tree's very old, and if trees have eyes, they've certainly seen the past, the present, and they're going to see the future. Now, the last place that we had visited was the Lake Wales Garden Cemetery. This place is pretty huge for a Florida cemetery. A lot of cemeteries in Florida, they're so small. I mean, they're as big as my backyard, but this place was pretty phenomenal. It's not the biggest cemetery I went in, but it does contain a lot of graves. It goes for quite a few blocks. There's a few roads that go through it. Pretty decent sized. And I noticed that one of my investigators had been walking. I seen something behind her move really fast. It was like a cloud of mist, but it looked like a dog just running. It had a running type of motion. But it really, I don't know if it was a dog. It was more maybe like a human being crawling. But I did see something. And, she's just walking around. She's just checking out graves and taking photos. And I'm standing there smiling because I see this thing just run right past her. She has no clue. That was about the only thing that stood out. I don't really think that we got a lot of paranormal pictures from this weekend's investigation. But I do think that sometimes it's what you see, what you smell, what you feel. And I think that that aspect, being able to write that out and put it on our site and let others read it, they might be able to take those experiences and compare them to their own. So we had a nice little investigation. Our next major investigation will take place up in Tampa Bay. Right now I'm hurting for investigators, so more than likely I will be driving for that trip. Not too bad of a ride. It's a good 100-something miles, but I mean, Tampa Bay is an old city. It's on the Gulf. It's one of the oldest cities on the Gulf. There's a lot of history to it. They got a fort on an island, an Indian mound, a ghost town. So I have to decide what to pick, because this is a one-time shot. I've never been to Tampa Bay, so I look forward to exploring and doing some paranormal investigations up there. We're always looking for investigators. Another place that I investigated Friday was Walt Disney's Animal Kingdom. Even if you get an orb or a strange anomaly, it goes up on our website. We don't claim that the place is haunted, but every place I go, I can feel some amount of energy, and Disney is one of those places. When I went and I investigated Walt Disney World, I had got a lot of ghost pictures, and I'd like to continue the series and do all the Disney theme parks before I move. So I'll probably end up investigating MGM, Epcot, and we should have the Animal Kingdom up on our site in the near future. If not, at least you get to see a little bit about my life and how my life works and what goes on in my world. And it's good for the fans, it's good for the members. A lot of people think that because I'm a paranormal investigator that I don't live a normal life, and I do. Me and my sons, we go to Disney World. We ride the roller coasters. We play games and win prizes. It's just because I'm a paranormal investigator doesn't make me any different than any of you. But I will have it up on the site. I'm running a little behind in site updates. It's pretty tough when you're a one-man team and you got to do it all. It's a lot of work. It's hard to hold the fort when you don't got a lot of people who donate or participate or come along on investigations. I mean, the work just never ends. It just piles up, and it's just, we get so many emails too, and I have to help so many people because they have questions about this, questions about that. They want us to look at their photos, and a lot of times their photos don't turn out to be ghost at all. And when you look at enough photos, you know what's real and you know what's not. When you've been dealing with it, some things you can question a little bit, but generally, I trust my photography. I don't know about anybody else's. I know what's real. I know I was there at the present location. And that's how we handle our investigations, We take things with a pretty open mind. But anyways, the biggest story of the month, or news article, is about the Peru meteorite. And, if you've been on our message board, you would have read all the articles. I must have sent out over 20 articles on this thing. And, they say that the meteorite's making people sick, and that it's brought disease and headaches and radiation, and then scientists say no, and then other scientists are saying yes. And I forgot how big the crater was, but from the looks of it, it looked bigger than 100 feet in radius-wise. And anyways, it just happened randomly, and a huge fireball and explosion occurred. And then you read today's article about how other elements or forces are at work, and that's true. Nobody's seen this meteorite coming towards Earth. And you think about it, what if that meteorite were to land in New York City? What if that were to hit a building? What if it hit an airplane? People just, you don't understand how life can be taken away that quickly. The bad thing about this is that if a meteorite that large did that much damage, that's a sign of things to come. Because when there's a little meteorite, bigger meteorite and more bigger meteorites. It's usually followed by a pretty giant asteroid. So it's a good possibility that there's an asteroid out there in our solar system that we're not detecting. And if that's the case and it hits Earth, or we're about to be belted by a bunch of asteroids, this planet, or at least mankind and civilizations, will cease to exist. And we talked about the asteroid that's going to hit in 2029. But, until then, what's going to hit before? And so right now, Peru's kind of in a state of panic because the meteorite had hit. And, even though it didn't kill anybody, you got all these people sick. And, that's the argument a lot of people are making, and scientists. Well, here we have a bunch of diseases here on Earth. And, it's pretty much set. The main ones are cancer right now, the AIDS virus, definitely those are the two biggest killers, I think, that are attacking the planet, especially cancer. There's a few others as well. But anyways, where did these diseases and bacteria come from? Some think meteorites had caused it, where, a meteorite crashed here and spread it. I think so too, and I think that new diseases that are arriving here on Earth may have been caused by space. Maybe these planetary objects or asteroids and meteorites that collide with Earth, and maybe there's bacteria attached with them. Who knows? I mean, we have a lot yet to learn scientifically. But the fact remains is that right now people have illness, they're sick. Some people think the meteorite has brought a new disease. I don't know. But that, let's put it this way. Let's say tomorrow a meteorite hits Earth and does bring a virus that wipes out mankind. Is it a possibility? You bet. As long as you keep an open mind and you sit back, you can actually say, hey, this really could happen. Nobody really knows what's going to happen day to day. Not even a really good psychic can tell you what's going to happen day to day. All people can do is speculate. So, I say keep an open mind. So, if you're on our forums, keep an eye out for that article, because I'm sure there's going to be a lot more articles posted and theories on what happened here up in Peru with this meteorite, and I will keep people posted. I don't think the disease or anything that it's brought is deadly. I don't think that mankind's going to be wiped out by tomorrow because of it. But I do think it is something that we need to watch for. And I think that we need to keep an eye out on our skies. Because at any time, to tell you the truth, you could be bathing in the bathtub and your house could be hit by a meteorite. And really not much left. All that's going to be left of your house is about an 8-foot deep crater. And there's not going to be anything left of you. And, a lot of people sit there and they say, well, it's literally possible to happen. But then you look at Peru and you think, wow. And, of course, you got Tunguska and up in Siberia. And, you got all these little hits, and they may not be big asteroids, but they're enough to wipe out a neighborhood. They're enough to kill a few people. Then they're enough to bring disease. Just keep an eye out on it. Our next article I'd like to discuss is about the space race to the moon. Of course, sooner or later other countries are going to become technologically advanced, just like the United States. Some of the more well-known countries like China, India, Soviet Union. But these countries are trying to get to the moon. I don't think we're going to the moon because I think whatever the astronauts seen on the moon they found threatening. I think it's kept hush-hush. Because, it's been many years that we've not gone to the moon, and some of these countries are actually catching up with us because we put a halt on visiting the moon, mining it, gathering data, maybe even setting up a base. Some people say that the Nazis were the first ones to make it to the moon. I don't know. But I'd like to some of you to think about the space race and who's going to go. Now that the Soviet Union's showing interest, the United States and NASA has shown a little bit of interest about maybe going to the moon and mining the helium-3 that's on it. So the space race is in effect. And our last story that I found interesting is about Sasquatch. Supposedly, 2 guys had filmed a Sasquatch up in Arizona, I believe. And they said that they have live footage that Sasquatch does exist. I don't know how true it is, but I had noticed actually when I went to the Disney Animal Kingdom, and this is another reason why I'm putting it on the website. They actually have a Yeti museum dedicated to Yeti there. It's for the Mount Everest ride, and they have a Yeti footprint. And this thing's bigger than my chest. This thing's huge. And they had the skull of what Bigfoot would be today. That skull is, I cannot pronounce the scientific word for it. And they say that they went extinct. But if they did not go extinct, this would be the Bigfoot species. And of course, they had a few other things like posters and pictures and footprints and a little bit of history and Indian carvings and such on the Yeti. And all Yeti is really is a cousin of Bigfoot. So you have to stay tuned on our forums to see updated stories on the footage. Perhaps the video will come out. There actually was a photo of the Bigfoot. Not sure what to make of it. Not sure if it's real. It could be a bear standing on 2 legs, its backside. I don't know. We'll just have to wait for the live video to come out, and I'll be sharing that with my forums. All I really received was a small picture from the video. I can't say it's real or it's not. Arizona has some areas that, like Sedona, where that Indian tribe disappeared, and there's portals. Maybe Sasquatch uses portals. It may seem unrealistic, but it's a possibility. Arizona's a strange state. In some of the mountains of Arizona, there's a lot of UFO sightings. A lot of alien abductions. There is an area up near Flagstaff that's heavily forested that could possibly contain Sasquatch, or at least a small group of them. So just keep that in mind. This is the month of October. It's a very special month for us. I always try to do a lot of special extra investigations and activities. This is the month of my going away party, and of course our Halloween party, all combined as one. It's usually our biggest party of the year, so I hope a lot of you are able to attend. We also got our meetup this month. We got Tampa Bay in a couple weeks. Gonna even try to squeeze in the very haunted St. Augustine. And of course we've been there a couple times. It's always been good to us as far as ghost activity goes. So if you're interested, currently we are looking for team members if you're tuning on in. I'd like to thank all our listeners. I'd like to thank RHC for their hard work and their good music. We do plan on adding in the future more of your future songs to our site. I'd also like to thank Mike Digital for putting together our radio show on YouTube. So once again, a big thank you. And until next time, the truth is out there. I am your host, Lord Rick. Have a good night, folks.
When you were a kid, you used to steal from your parents. You used to take everything that wasn't given to you. By the age of 14, you were a kleptomaniac. But what you gonna do when he opens up that door for you? You pay the price. You sacrifice your life. Hell's doors are open, waiting for the Antichrist. You shouldn't have sinned. Your life is looking grim. Hell's doors are open. Let me